genteel southern town. Fort Bragg is one of the largest military installations in the country and the base for 42,000 mostly airborne soldiers. If there is a trouble spot somewhere in the world, chances are good that Fort Bragg troops are in the mix. There's a sense of real purpose here, a bona fide war mission and a long and proud history of belonging to something greater than oneself. Even the streets and neighborhoods are named after World War II battle campaigns. Normandy Drive, Ardennes Street, Bastogne Gables, Nijmegen, Corregidor Courts, Lausanne, Bataan, and Salerno. Soon, no doubt, the campaigns of Afghanistan and Iraq will start cropping up on street signs too. Within this environment, a whole community, with arcane traditions and a well-defined military caste system, thrives. The senior officers' families live in the prettiest part of Post, near the parade field in century-old homes, all within walking distance of the golf course and the officers' club, pool, and tennis courts. The most junior of enlisted couples live in dowdy duplexes known as ghettos, though Fort Bragg is finally tearing these down, where 19-year-old brides sit on steps strewn with toys, watching their children ride tricycles on the sidewalk. They have to drive to get to their pool, and every day a bugle call to reveille and a cannon jolt at 6:30 a.m. remind you of where you are and why. Over the last decade, I became part of the community and friends with the soldiers' families, who were my neighbors or whom I met at church. I got to know and love the veterans, the old-timers, and I realized that Fayetteville's greatest asset was its people, a hodgepodge of races, religions, and ethnic groups, both haves and have-nots, who live in one of the most integrated communities in the country. As one black Vietnam vet who had been severely wounded in combat once told me, "If you have to die next to each other, living together isn't so hard." For me, the third week in July 2002 started off routinely enough, if writing about an AWOL soldier who claimed he had amnesia is routine. My days were generally spent juggling writing assignments and interviews that covered everything from war training to Army wives' craft shows. By Friday afternoon, July 19th, I was working on a mind-numbing account of the integration of the Army's battle theories and doctrine with digital technology. Then, news of a murder hit the newsroom. A man had just led detectives to the spot where he had buried his wife, whom he had strangled 3 weeks earlier. A few hours later, the same detectives were investigating the murder-suicide of a married couple across town. During the weekend, facts surrounding both cases slowly trickled in. The husbands were soldiers. This was my beat. I felt as if a tornado had rumbled through my stomach. There were now 4 dead wives in 6 weeks, out of the ordinary even in Fayetteville, jaded as it was by decades of violence and bad news. After all, this was a town that had had its share of extraordinary news stories over the years, including Jeffrey MacDonald's 1970 murders of his wife and daughters, a case made infamous in Fatal Vision. People had barely noticed when, a month earlier, on June 11th, Sergeant First Class Rigoberto Nieves, a Green Beret just 2 days back from Afghanistan, had shot his wife Teresa in the head before killing himself. The Friday after their deaths, I attended a cocktail party filled with high-ranking Fort Bragg officers and their wives. Over gin and tonic and scotch and water, the conversation focused on Italian handbags and summer sandals, new duty assignments, summer vacation plans, Osama bin Laden, and Fayetteville's drought. A few weeks after that, on Tuesday, July 9th, I'd been driving from Washington, D.C., where I'd covered a White House Medal of Honor ceremony posthumously honoring an American prisoner of war in Vietnam, when the second murder took place. Sergeant Cedric Griffin visited the Fayetteville home of his estranged wife, Marilyn. Following an argument, he stabbed her 70 times before setting her body on fire. As grotesque and unsettling as Marilyn Griffin's murder was, it didn't really shock me either. Nor did it garner much more than a day's worth of media attention and a shake of the head by the people in town. Now the body count had risen again, and no one was making any connection. On the following